Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Economic Briefcase. Thank you for joining us. For those of you watching us via satellite TV, and if your network is poor, you can still connect on YouTube. You can also watch us on Facebook. Today we have an interesting topic for you. We'll be opening the phone lines as we go through the program. Those of you that are feeling shy to call in, you can write, you can send your messages on the numbers that are appearing on the screen, below the screen. So today, as per tradition, I have my hooligan co-host, Mr. Njapao. How have you been?
Good evening, Doc. Welcome to the program. Yours? How's been the week?
No, the week has been very interesting. Especially today has been like the whole week.
Specifically today.
Today has been like the whole week.
I wonder what was happening.
Yeah. Today we have a very interesting guest for you. And before we introduce her, we don't want you to run away. So we'll keep it in suspense. And as per tradition, we'll look at what is obtaining on the commodities and foreign exchange markets.
The market updates as of today, the 25th of August, 2022. The kwacha against the four major currencies. The kwacha closed off selling against the dollar at 16 kwacha 16 ngwe. The pound closed off selling at 18 kwacha 95 ngwe. The euro closed off selling at 15 kwacha 99 ngwe. The rand closed off selling at 95 ngwe. Selected metal prices delayed by a day. Copper closed off selling at $8,143.50 per ton. Aluminium closed off selling at $2,429.50 per ton. Zinc closed off selling at $3,569.50 per ton. Lead closed off selling at $1,996.50. Tin closed off selling at $24,465. Nickel closed off selling at $21,760. Crude oil prices. WTI crude closed off selling at $94.25. Brent crude closed off selling at $101. That's all we had for today on the market update.
So I've seen that crude basically has gone down. The last time we were here, it was around 110, somewhere there. Now we're looking at below 100. So do we expect any adjustments, when ERB sits?
I'm sure there will be more adjustments as it continues to go down. And we can see that the copper price is going back up. That's good for us.
Yeah, we hope that the kwacha will finally reach 10 kwacha per dollar, because we are now at 14 hours.
We have our fingers crossed.
So today we are discussing Zambia's economic potential. Zambia's economic potential in relation to arts and other hidden sectors or neglected sectors. Zambia, we've always been talking about copper. We've always been talking about agriculture. But when you look at other sectors or other developed economies like the United States of America, you are going to find that just Hollywood itself has a much larger GDP than maybe even a lot of countries put together in Southern Africa. Just movies, bring in huge amounts of money. And when you look at what Nigeria is doing today with its music industry, when you look at what Nigeria is doing today with its film industry, they are not only exporting their culture outside the country, but they are also raking in huge amounts of money, overtaking even South Africa. So today, to discuss our topic, unlocking Zambia's economic potential through arts and other neglected sectors of the economy, we have for you a guest that needs no introduction. This guest, a hint, is a person who's an author, an expert in arts. This person has won a lot of awards, and there's no better person that can share with us today's topic. And this person is Madam Mulenga. I hope you won't mind if I say Mpundu. Kapwepwe.
That's my name.
Yeah, thank you very much for having you. You know, today for the first time I'm even, I'm nervous. I think Mr. Japawa has noticed that I'm making maybe...
I mean, hosting a very eloquent woman like her, I'm sure should make you nervous.
No, not at all.
You know, we have a lot of millennials in this country. Some of them probably are hearing you about now. Some know you, some don't know you. So just as per tradition, we want to know who Mulenga Kapwepwe is.
Okay, that's a tough question. All right, my name is Mulenga Mpundu, as you said. Kapwepwe. I'm the 6th child of Simon Masa Kapwepwe. I'm a twin. That's the Mpundu, so I'm quite proud of that bit.
The other twin is
Chileshe Kapwepwe, the Secretary General of COMESA.
Of COMESA, yes. I've been privileged to meet both of you.
Okay, so that's my twin sister. I like to say that I'm Zambian born and bred. I was born here in Lusaka, been to school in Lusaka and in Ndola, and also the University of Zambia. So I am Zambian made in Zambia, and very proud of it. And let me just say that in terms of my artistic side, I think I have my parents to thank for that, because they were very, very encouraging in terms of encouraging me to be an artist. My father, of course, my father was an artist. The most of you remember him as a politician, but he was an artist. He was a writer.
We remember him as the person who won a constituency without even going there.
I remember him because of that famous photo that has him wearing that yes.
Okay. Yes. Yeah, those togas are very special, actually, for me, in my memory. But my father and my mother encouraged me as a child to write and to draw and to do artistic things, because I think my father was very appreciative of the fact that he was an artist, and he saw that in me, I guess. And so it was never, for me, it was, I count myself fortunate, because a lot of parents discourage their children from venturing into the arts, because I think we want our children to do proper jobs.
To be engineers and doctors.
Lawyer, doctor, stuff like that. But I think for me, my deal with my father was, go and get yourself a degree, have something to fall back on, and then you can pursue your arts. So that was the deal, basically, that has brokered my life. I went to the University of Zambia. I have a double major in psychology and sociology. And I worked in the corporate sector for a bit. I'm really an artist at heart. Didn't sit very well with me, but I wanted to learn what goes on in the corporate sector, and I think I landed in the best training ground, which was ZCCM. Lots of very good, it was very professional, very, lots of good systems. ZCCM was a very good training ground. And after that, I decided to be self-employed, because I wanted to work for myself and have a flexible life that would support both my art and my income earning side, because it's pretty hard to earn from the arts only in a lot of countries in Africa, and even in the West. So I kind of did two things. I set up a consultancy company, and I think because of the good training background in the ZCCM days, I was able to set up a company that kind of put two things together. One was kind of the corporate side. So, for example, when the Securities and Exchange Commission was coming up, we actually, when I say we, my consultancy company actually did the whole education campaign. I still smile when I look at the Securities and Exchange Commission logo, because I designed that.
Wow.
And so...
When was that?
Oh gosh, that was 90 something when the Securities Exchange was being set
94,
up.
90.
Yeah.
So 94 Lusa was created, Yes, so around that period,
Operating
yes.
after.
So for me, I think the important thing was to immerse myself in as many interesting aspects of life, because sometimes, for me anyway, when you have one job, you kind of are in a tunnel, and you stay in that job, and that's what you do, and you just learn about that job, basically. Yeah, I wanted to do a lot of different things, so I did a lot of communication stuff. I said that we did the whole education campaign for that. I did polio campaigns. When we had the big polio campaign here, I did all that communication for that. I did a lot of communication for HIV/AIDS. It was just beginning, so did a lot of work with Morehouse School of Medicine to put out a lot of messages at the beginning of the pandemic for the armed forces, for special target groups. And so I did a lot of that, did a lot of video productions for that sector as well. Some of my work, the work of my company, was also adopted in Malawi and other countries, especially for the armed forces, because at that point there was a lot of loss of human lives in special populations, and we targeted those for our campaigns. So I said I've done, got involved.
You're also the chairperson of the National Arts Council.
Yes, became the chairperson of the National Arts Council. I also chaired what is called the Atira Network of Africa, which is a network of African artists from Cape to Cairo, basically, 7,000-8,000.
I think the first time I met you, I don't know if you can remember, you have attended a lot of meetings. We were trying to do a youth empowerment conference, I think so. So we had a stakeholder meeting, and I think one thing that you pointed out in our youth empowerment plan was that there was nothing for the arts.
Yes, always.
That should have been 2012, 2013, somewhere there.
Always forgotten, yeah. I think you pointed out at the beginning of this segment that the creative industries, the creative sector, is what, worth, I think I'm quoting maybe 2011 figures, but it was worth something like $295 billion, and employing 29.5 million people, and we have missed. I think we keep missing opportunities in terms of invigorating this sector, so that it actually becomes a major employer. I think 2011 figures. I think the creative industries were employing maybe 2.5% of the population in Zambia, but that can go up very, very much, because the creative sector is an equal opportunity employer.
Maybe just breaking down the creative sector. But most of the people only think probably it's music, film industry, culture, traditional dances, and all that. But I think it's much broader than that. Maybe expanding on that. Maybe some of our viewers would not actually understand how wide the creative sector is.
Yeah, the creative sector is. You've mentioned, those things. I remember having a fight when we were doing the constitutional review. Because just like you're saying, people really just think of the arts as music. So people were saying, no, we have to put music in there, and I was like, no, music is just a subsector, of a huge industry, called the creative industry. But it's because people just kind of think of those things that you've mentioned. But the creative sector is, yes, music, film. It's the visual arts, which is the painting and the drawing and the sculpturing and all that. It's architecture. It's the culinary arts. It's heritage. It's museology. It's a massive sector. It's literature. Design. It's literature. Even people who are doing voiceovers and stuff like that.
And animation as well.
Animation, yes. It's so much more. And the types of jobs that the sector can provide to the population And I'm saying it's an inclusive sector, because even if my only skill is that I speak Kaonde very well, I can get employed to do voiceovers. I can go to do, there's so many different things that you can do just by having that skill. But
I'm told you speak fluent German.
oh my God, don't remind me. We had to learn German at school. That was for me a nightmare. Yeah, so we had to learn how to speak German, French, and of course English. But yeah, for me, just learning languages is just a nightmare. So yeah.
So we are looking at Zambia. People want to, I don't know, to be managers. Everybody wants to be a manager. Everyone wants to be an engineer and a doctor. Yeah. One thing that when we were growing up, there were a lot of drama clubs. So there was a debate club, drama club. There was literature club. There were a lot of.
I think those things have died now.
I think they are no longer there, and I don't know what
they're not pronounced as much as before.
The kids are on Facebook now. So from there, when I went to university, I found that there was also a drama club in universities, and then from there it's a huge business, and from there people graduate to doing stand-up comedy. And I can proudly say that I did that for about 5 years.
Really?
Yes, at Russian national level.
Really?
And I can tell you the money that I was making, I don't think in Zambia, that because just for 5 minutes, you move out and you can get money to live for 2-3 months.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
so what should we do, in Zambia to be able to maybe explain to parents? Because even here in Zambia, when I say that, there's somebody who leaked one of my performances for the whole country. It was like a laughing stock. People were laughing. And the Russians, like my Russian friends were wondering, but why are these guys laughing?
Yeah.
Do you laugh at, Eddie Murphy? Yeah. Do you laugh at Chris Rock?
Trevor Noah.
Trevor Noah. Can you, I mean, so I think how can we change?
Yeah, I think we do need that education to parents specifically, because parents are the ones who guide the children into professions. But also, I think at least when I was growing up, we had career guidance at schools, where you were actually given a whole bouquet, if you want, of different professions that you could be. And I think we should go back to that system so that we can also present the arts as profession to young people who are coming. And I tell you something though, that if I were to say, and for me, what we need to do in this country is not really talk about job creation. I think we should be talking about sector creation, sector reform and sector creation. Because when you create a sector, when you support a sector with policy and legislation and incentives and all that stuff, you have a domino effect of jobs. The government doesn't have to do anything apart from make sure that that sector has got the incentives. If you're going to have the arts, look at how you incentivize that space so that people can be employed, materials can be created, whatever. We have kind of fallen into this type of job creation, like, job creation, but so you can get one company to come in and create 500 jobs or 20 jobs or 30 jobs. But if you support a sector, if you say we're going to create this as a creative sector, and we lined up all those different sectors in the creative sector, for example, all those have a potential to create jobs. If you incentivize them, if you make them, China, the reason why China has taken off is because they've put away that whole job creation thing and said, let's create sectors. Yeah? So primary sector is the farming and mining and the red collar jobs, as I call it. The secondary sectors are the manufacturing, the ones that make value out of the things from the primary sector. And then you have so those are the blue collar Yeah, then you have the ones who now kind of make those things into services, who become the white collar, so the bankers and, people like that. Then you have the quaternary sector, which is the knowledge sector, which is a sector that's going to kind of dwell on the research and statistics, and, they basically use knowledge to create more value. Yeah. Then you have the quinary sector, which, for me, I think the quaternary and the quinary sectors are the ones that we should be now focusing on creating, because some of those things are already ours. We don't have to mine them. We don't have to do anything. It's innovation. It's about thinking of how we solve things. We create solutions for things and sell those solutions. It's a very it's a sector that anybody who with any imagination and hands and whatever can get into. So we have to start focusing on what sectors can we actually build in this country. When I was chairing the National Council, we actually applied to and I don't know if it's still there, I hope it is, at Cabinet's office there was a department called the Sector Reform. There was a sector reform program, and we applied to that sector reform program to create the creative industry sector. Yeah? And the creative industry sector, all the things that I've talked about, including heritage and museums and all the arts. And we got the money, and we did the legislation for that, and we actually broke a record, because no other sector has actually created, the legislation to set up the sector, and we set up all this legislation to set up the creative sector, and because that's another thing when we're saying let's unlock the potential, the creative sector, the arts and all that stuff, is scattered across 12 ministries. Oh. There is no way you're going to unlock potential when a sector is scattered across 12 ministries. In fact, under the new government, they've even split it again. So now you have the arts in one ministry and the other part of the creative industry, which is the heritage and museums, in another ministry. So we've split it again. So I'm presuming now the sector is scattered across 13 ministries. There is no way you're going to unlock the potential of a sector. One, if it's scattered all over government. Two, you cannot develop a sector from a department in a ministry. It's imagine if the Ministry of if there was no Ministry of Mines, there was just a Department of Mines somewhere buried in maybe the Ministry of Lands. I don't know. There's no way you could develop the mining industry. Yeah. So in the same vein, if we're going to develop the creative sector, we have to make sure that it actually stands on a pillar from which you can actually build that potential. Yeah. In the UK, for example, the creative industries, the Minister of Culture, if you want, doesn't have a separate ministry as such. It's under, but it has a minister. Yeah, which is the difference of having just a department and saying we're going to create a sector. You can't. So the other thing that you need to create sectors, which we looked at in the legislation that we created, you also need to have the training base. Training.
Same, yes.
Yes. We're all talking about the Nigerian industry has blossomed. Do you know how many film schools Nigeria has? More than 400.
And how many do we have in Zambia?
I think mine. I have one.
Oh, you have one, huh?
Yes.
I think even Evelyn Horn offers a few courses.
Evelyn Horn doesn't offer. Evelyn Horn is a college to train teachers of art. It's pedagogy. Okay. It's not practice. Yeah. So you can't say we're training artists. We're training teachers of art. That's what Evelyn Horn College was set up for, because in the UNIP government, the arts, culture, arts, and all that was perceived as they were going to drive it through Ministry of Education. Mm-hmm. And this is another important thing, Luvinda. The ministries that a government sets up, a ministry is a vehicle. It's a vehicle of development. It's a vehicle that actually even alerts me an outsider, when I come into this country, just by looking at the ministries, I should know the direction this country is going, right? I should know. Because I'll know that, oh, the policy here, like under the UNIP government, because arts and culture were going to be driven by education. That's why they built Evelyn Horn College. Because then the teachers from there would come into the education sector and teach art. And that would have grown the sector. That's the way they envisioned it. But we haven't had that vision since then. There's no engine that I see that drives that sector. You have a little bit in the Ministry of Education, there's a little bit now in Ministry of Sport, there's a little bit now under tourism, there's a little bit under education, there's a little bit under community development, there's a little, it's everywhere. So how do you unlock the potential of potentially an industry that can create a lot of wealth and potentially a lot of employment? When I was chairing MultiChoice, I think one of the reports that I had to present to the president then was the fact that over the period of 3 years, one company in the sector, in the creative industry sector, one company had contributed literally 2.5% to the GDP. One company in the creative sector. So if one company can create that amount towards the GDP, what if we support more companies? What would happen then? So for me, we are sitting on so much potential, and we have scattered it to the wind, basically, and it's not going to come together until we're deliberate about it.
So one thing that I noticed in Zambia is that there are a lot of people that are talented, but the guidance is basically not there. I see very good musicians, for example. They are Funikas, that's my favorite. When you look at his show, 50 kwacha entrance. What should we do to maybe, make the nation appreciate, arts, to be able to know that if somebody, for example, draws you, they have spent the whole day, they have tried maybe 50 drawings for them to actually come up with a perfect drawing. If you go to Europe, let's go and watch, paintings. I also normally go there to, pretend as if I understand what is happening. Should we start with schools, or what really needs to be done?
I think it's a multi-layered. It has to be a multi-layered approach. We have to start with schools. We have to do public education as well, and some of it I think won't be that difficult because people already appreciate music. It's just I think making them appreciate the value of that music so that they pay for it. I think Radio Chukuni did something interesting, which for me I think is another kind of key, because when the whole piracy thing was so and artists were losing money because people just the technology allowed them to pirate these things very easily. What Radio Chukuni did was educate the public very, very well, their community, very, very well around piracy. And I think when you educate people in their own language, they understand the concept very well. You literally couldn't pirate anything that came out of of Radio Chukuni because people understood. Literally, I remember speaking to one of the managers at Chukuni Radio, and he was saying, even when we changed the ink on the CD, on the print, people will call and say, "Is this a real one?" Because they understood the concept that if I buy a pirated CD, I'm depriving an artist of an income. Yeah. So yes, we need to educate. We need to educate people around that. But also, as you're saying, we lack the infrastructure also that supports the arts to thrive. So I'm a playwright. I write a play, the Lusaka Playhouse. Lusaka Playhouse is as old as I am, so it's really old. Built for a population of Lusaka when I don't know what Lusaka was, maybe 50,000 or something. So the playhouse, which is the playhouse in the city, only seats maybe 200 people. And then for me to put on my play, to do the costume, music, sound, lights, everything, it costs a hell of a lot of money. But if I can only seat 200 people, in that theater, how much should I charge them for me to recover my money? If I charge too much, they won't come. If I charge too little, I won't make my money. So it's even the infrastructure for the art to be consumed is very limited. There should be concerts everywhere and every weekend, and there should be venues where you know that you can go to a good place and have a good time and enjoy yourself. But even the venues for that, and this is for me where when you start talking about sector creation, then you also incentivize infrastructure development, for example. That if you're going to build a venue or something in the arts, then these are the tax rebates or whatever that you'll enjoy, because you're actually building an infrastructure for this sector. In other countries, even the legislation that for all this now we're seeing all this fight against corruption. In other countries, anything that is taken from proceeds of crime or corruption, and in fact even a percentage from casinos, all goes into the arts. So that's another way that the government doesn't really have to pay for the arts, but they can support the arts in another way. So when you're creating a sector, you have to think of all those things so that you plug them in and you can actually support that sector to thrive without the government having to think every time. From the time I've been in the arts up to now, I think the budget for the arts is always 0.6% of the budget. Doesn't change. So, like, how do I unlock a potential with below zero budget?
We saw, when the census, they were trying to employ enumerators, I don't know what you call them. They were stadium full of people. Yeah. And we can't, I always tell people that we can't give all those people jobs. Yeah. Some want easy money. In the, art, I think, is sometimes the talent. And when you have a talent at something, you don't feel as if you are working. Because it's like a hobby. Yeah. It's more like a hobby, but it brings money. You are good at it. And a lot of our young, kids, they have that talent. They're able to do that. I don't know what is the potential, of the creative, the arts industry in terms of job creation. A lot of people that are watching us, especially from the Copper Belt, they look for companies. There are no companies. Everything is outsourced from China and other countries. But we need to create an industry. I mean, we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, there's two things that you've said there that are really kind of cardinal. One, the thing about the arts as well is that it's also about the talent you've been given, yeah, and for some of us, that is what we have. We don't have anything else. I have a voice. That's what I have. And in this society, in this Zambia, there should be a place for me, who only has a voice to offer to society and to the economy. There should be a pathway for me, for my talent, to thrive and to make me money and to create wealth for others, even. Yeah. So there's that aspect of the arts which, for me, I think we overlook the fact that there's some people who only have their sense of humor. Trevor Noah has a sense of humor. He's also smart, but that's what the country unlocked for him, and now he's where he is. Yeah, this is what we're when you talk about the arts, you talk about that. Employment. I'll cite you an example of the equal opportunity employer that the arts are. When Rungano won a BAFTA award. She's a Zambian British filmmaker. But she came to make the film here. And she specifically wanted a certain age group of women and all that kind of stuff. So she went to Luapula, went and got these old women who fitted the part. They've never been in a film before, but we Africans are very natural actors. So yes, so
especially what was happening in Dora Today and Kid.
So she brought all those old women from Luapula and whatever. They did their training. They learned how to, what she wanted and whatever it is. Lovinda, when those women and they hired a bus to bring these women. When those women were going back, first of all, they said, in all their lives, and these were old women, they said in all their lives, they've never been employed and earned money for themselves. When they were going back, they had to book a second bus because of the amount of stuff that those people bought. Because they could, they could now do it, yeah? And they had money to spare and all that kind of stuff. But these were women from a village in Wapula who could now come, be employed, make money, pay, their taxes to ZRA, buy some stuff and put some money into this economy here also, and go and put some money in the economy in Wapula, And this is what I'm talking about, the arts. It's an equal opportunity employer. Anybody literally can have an opportunity in the arts and perhaps even thrive, even if it's a one-off thing, because some of the jobs in the arts are one-off, but they still earn people money. So, for me, ignoring the arts is really at our own peril. Ignoring the creative sector is at our own peril. Because this is, especially for young people now, there are so many ways in terms of the arts. YouTubers, people have channels. In Rwanda, in fact, the tourism ministry, which I hope will happen here, because even in the ministries we must start thinking creatively, because those old jobs that are in the ministry which are not producing. The Rwandese government, for example, got all these young people and said, if you can blog about Rwanda, just blog about Rwanda every day. We will go and negotiate with YouTube in terms of the fees and how you get paid and all that kind of stuff. And so young people start blogging about their own country. And the only thing the government wants is blog positive things every day about Rwanda. Meanwhile, Rwanda is getting all this,
including Zambia, yes.
Yes, visibility, and young people are doing it, and they're earning money. Because in today's world, and especially in the Web 3 jobs, which we should be getting into, because it means that Zambians can earn foreign exchange while they sit in Chiravombwe or wherever they are. Web 3.0 jobs are, simple things, editing, translating, things like that.
Working remotely. Basically.
Working remotely, but you're earning your money. And these are the things that when we're sector.
So my wife has a blog on Instagram where she talks about, a foreigner living in Zambia. And she makes over $1,000 a month. Yes. I'm telling you.
Yes.
And how does she make it? So there are, people are now developing content. So a person would there's product placement there. So somebody would send her money to say, talk about, in your morning story, talk about my product, say this, and just from blogging.
Yes. And that's you're going to 3.0. That's 2.0. But these are the things that we should be, when we're saying we're going to create a sector, these are the things that we should actually be talking about. And getting young people to, we've got studios in every province. We've got studios in every province. We can open up those studios to the same young people and say, you know what, come here, blog, as long as you're blogging about Zambia. And when I say about Zambia, it's kind of like what you're saying. I can just blog about being in my village. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And what that means.
That's how we live. Actually, I want to see how people are in Cherenge. Yes. In the morning, how's the lake? Yes. I want to see that.
And you find out there's Peace Corps exchange students come here to Zambia and start blogging about Zambia, and they start earning on something that a Zambian youth can actually do and
have even more authentic content. Yeah.
You're watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. At this juncture, we are going to open the lines. You can call us on the numbers that are appearing below your screen. You can also send us text messages. You can ask you, when you call, just tell us your name and where you're calling from, and we'll be able to, interact with you. There's one issue that I wanted to talk about. You mentioned about ZCCM and how it was good at nurturing talent. Then before the program started, we were talking about, profiling the history of Zambia. People don't know a lot of of things in Zambia. I mean, especially the millennials.
Yeah.
They are like a memory span is like 2015 going above. Before that, they have no idea.
I know.
In terms of literature, our history, national heritage, it's us who probably will remember the role your father played in the liberation, struggle, in ANC. The kids don't know.
And probably it's because someone had time to write all that history for these young people to read.
Yes, it's yes. Recording our history is, of course, something that we should be actively doing every day. Yeah. But again, as I'm saying, it goes back to even the sector. Yeah. Because for me to publish,
we have our first caller. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning, Father.
Good morning.
Good evening.
Good evening. Sorry. I slept between 18 hours and 19 hours. Yes. Yes, you can go ahead.
Yes, my question is my question is how can you know what the government will get from working at in Zambia? The fact is Zambia is to we only see people better and that annually, but not being promoted. What is the government, what is the doing to pursue that? Because we are going to see that many from people are going to see that people
Thank you. You can call us on the numbers that are below the screen. When you call us, please don't put your phone on loudspeaker. Just speak directly. I think he's trying to say that there's little money pumped into the sector. What should government do in order to, to enhance the arts in this country? I know you have spoken about to this on how we need to create a specific sector. Me, I'm a very good listener and learner.
yes. The interesting thing about when we were doing the sector reform legislation, when we took all the money that was in the different pots in different ministries, which really belongs to the creative sector, the government literally didn't have to cough up too much money, because what we had to do was get it from all these other sectors. I think one of the first steps is to actually bring the pot into one kitty, so that from that kitty then you can start planning out the sector. One of the other things that we did, which actually was approved by Parliament, was also to budget for the, because I think we in the arts, I think we're so weary of the way that arts are treated as the donkey's tail, literally, that you stick onto the after you've done all your ministries, then you think, oh, there's the arts. Then you say, oh, let's stick it with your tourism or sports or whatever the thing is. One of the things that, and because every government that comes into place places the ministry somewhere, whatever. So what we had created with the legislation of creating the sector was to create an Arts, Culture and Heritage Commission, which would actually implement all the development in the sector. And I think we need to create a vehicle, one vehicle. If we don't want to create a ministry, let's create a commission that actually...
We have another call. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you. Good to see you on the screen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you, gentleman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
God bless you. Like I was saying, it's a very interesting topic. I'm going to watch It's very interesting topics. Some topics will say, the they keep on coming, not on the national television. There are not a lot of people that listen to TV. So those who have done some samples of fair and it's my contribution is that attitude that you are telling the nation is like a bad food. Well, this thing, which is so serious, that is supposed to be developed in our country. It's like a person who have to do business when you have good business of culture. I like starting business when I have good culture. This is a direct effect. Now, we need to have a lot of arguments on such kind of topics. My God bless you. Good night.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you for your contribution.
Thank you.
Now, when we talk about the international market for creative industry, some people would like to argue that our population is somehow too small sometimes for artists to actually thrive. What can be done to make sure that the creative industry is exported there, our culture, our music, our film, our literature, our history?
Yeah. First of all, I think there's no boundaries anymore.
Yeah.
Because we're in a digital age. So I can sell my book on Amazon to the world.
Thank you very
Yeah. So the world has shrunk
Yes,
in
good
the sense of
evening,
what
sir.
we can do as artists.
Hello?
And so that is another thing that we should really be looking
Hello?
at. For me, the digital age is the age for Africa.
Yeah,
Because we can do so many things that we
for
can do
sure.
before.
I'm following
Let's, pick up
your
Yes, your name and where are you calling from?
My name from down.
From where?
My name from down.
Okay, Kabwe, yes. You can go ahead.
Yeah, so the problem I feel is that these children who nowadays, it's like they are not interested in work together. They are just doing and that's just my contribution.
Thank you.
That's a very interesting contribution.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you know what? Let me just say that we do have a problem in this country, which I think we should tackle very seriously, very soon, because what the gentleman who's called just said is so true. We have a drug and alcohol problem, which we're not talking about, and we must address it very quickly. Otherwise, we'll lose the generation.
A lot of young people,
Yeah.
yes.
And you know, I'm you know, actively trying to figure out what to do because that's how I was brought up. If I see a problem, I should try and see if I can contribute to its solution. So we'll see how that goes. But you know, you were talking about the population being too small, maybe for our arts as well. You know, physically, like I said, if I'm doing something at the Playhouse, it can be very constraining. Yeah? But this is the digital age as well. So we also have an opportunity to go beyond our borders. You know, when I was chairing the Nationals Council, I actually, you know, bought my own ticket and flew to Johannesburg because if you remember when DSTV started, they started with Africa Magic, and I went and said, you know what?
Yeah, we have a caller.
Yeah, let's. Sorry to cut you short.
I hope I remember.
Yeah.
It's a Johannesburg.
Yes, your name and where you calling from? You are flying to where I want to go very, very soon.
Oh, really?
We've lost the caller.
Yeah, so I went to meet with them, and I said, look, how does the Zambian get their movie into, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, because when they took me around, there was one big room for Nigerian movies, and then there was a few shelves for the rest of us, you know? So they said, well, you know, Nigeria makes sense because the market is big, and you know, so we can make money, but what Zambia is like, how many subscribers, you know, what does that mean?
And now we have even Nigerian movies and South African movies on Netflix.
So I said, look, if that is the case...
We have a caller? Hello, your name and where are you calling from? Director, the gentleman is very faint. Those are the questions that are normally asked about our capacity to be able to consume. But we are paying a lot. Every person is sitting on Netflix. Our films are not there.
And it's a number of things. I mean, so when I had this argument with DSTV, I said, well, if you think that we're not going to be profitable for you, then group us, group African countries, group us Anglophone countries, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Botswana, whoever, make us into a big population so that you make profits. So that discussion went on. It took 3 years, but Zambezi Magic was born, and that's why we have Zambezi Magic. Yeah, and after that Zambezi Magic, I also pushed and said, no, if you want good content on your channel on this Zambezi Magic, then you have to train the talent, and that's why we have the training school at Zamcom.
And Zambezi Magic has actually contributed a lot to the film industry in Zambia.
Thank you, and it can even contribute more. Yeah. And I'm sure it will.
I had a student work in my office, I'm telling you, almost entering 4th year. Doc, I'm stopping school. I'll come and join later. Why? I want to be an actress.
Yes. I
sat with that person the whole day, nothing. I'm telling you, I failed to convince. They have withdrawn. They are now, trying out their luck.
Yeah.
And the industry is just not, as you had put it earlier, that there are stages. You see, there's producers, there are animators, the marketers, there are set or interior designers. It's really integrated. It's big.
Yes. A studio like this would be employing interior designers. There'll be prop people. There'll be script writers. It's once you support this industry, you support so many jobs because they're all necessary for the production of just one thing. Yeah, but we need one to also help the schools to train animators, to train interior designers, to train all those people, so that industry actually thrives.
Yes, we pick this school. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. We can hear you. Go ahead and make your contribution.
Yeah, my name is Vincent Murila. Yeah, coming from Mulenga, Lusaka.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just impressed with the discussion which you are having there. I'm just reminded, although that is a young man, I remember at the time of our late president, our fifth president, President Kaunda. Yeah, we got those. Is it a Warfare Academic Center? And those, I think, they become people. People need to go there, to lay down, to read, to do other things. But nowadays, those things are not there. So I think the change should start from the community. Because the industry, that's where people drink and do other things, other bad things. So I believe the change should start in the community. So, yeah, those things should come back. Yeah, they have to come back. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Director, do we have any messages? Any messages, Director? In Zambia, Madam Kapwepwe, I appreciate your knowledge and passion for arts in this country. Keep it up, Juvenales Tembo from Katete.
Thank you, my Mbuya. The point that the last caller made is very, 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 very critical, actually.
There's a message for you again from John Rondola. Madam Kapwepwe, I've always admired your contribution to the creative sector. The Lord bless you. How do I enroll in your film school? I want to learn. John Dollar. Next one. Evening, how can the arts and creative sector benefit through initiatives such as CDF and CEC to unlock economic potential? Joshua Mulenga Mfurira. Next one. Good evening. ICU Zambia offers 2 bachelor's degree in fine arts, namely Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting and Film Production and Bachelor of Fine Arts in Music and Dance Theatre. Don't you think it is a good starting point in the development of arts? Chileshe Victor from Kitwe. So there was a gentleman who wanted to find out how they can enroll in your school, and the other one that how can data CDF can be channeled towards that.
I think if they go to Facebook, I guess they can find Kilimanjaro. Kilimanjaro.
So go to Facebook, you find me already there. Kilimanjaro, you are going to, yes.
Film school. It's in Lusaka, so we used to do boarding school before where people could come from everywhere, but I think we're having to reorganize ourselves because after COVID it was very
difficult.
Yeah, it was very, and it's because we also targeted youth from challenged backgrounds, so we have to reorganize our concept as well, because I think the communities that we served were also quite hard hit in terms of COVID. The parents being able to manage to pay, or the individuals themselves being able to manage to pay. So we're trying to reconstruct how we make that service available again to people in a way that I think they can afford. We're trying to figure out some new ways, and maybe even remote. But our training is very hands-on, so it's film. You
yes.
have to, yeah. So the CDF and CEC. One of the problems that I've always had with these
funds
funds is that they're always very tailored to like farming or
collar, white collar job.
Things that are based on my idea are very difficult to get funded. If I say I want to, because with the arts it also depends on will they like my book, or will they like my design, or whatever the thing is. It's an idea, and the arts are more about taking a risk in that particular person to do what they want to do. But a lot of these funds are more for give us the projections and the whatever. I can't project how my book will sell.
How people receive your content or your...
So we need to fight for just more innovation funding, rather than this kind of structured procurement type stuff that is normally attached to these funds. We need perhaps to have a national innovation fund which takes risks on people's ideas and innovation. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult. I've hit my head against the wall so many times, trying to say, I'm applying for this, but I can't tell you how well it will do because I haven't ever done it before. It's a new thing. So, for me, I would love to see guidelines inbuilt into the CEC and the CDF that are really geared towards more innovative ideas, and those innovations that have a built-in also perhaps mechanism of seeing how the innovation is doing, and how that money can be paid back, because it's a very different world when you're dealing with artistic products. There's some artistic products which are easier to do, furniture, whatever. I'm going to do furniture for a school or whatever it is. That can.
By the way, I've read that you have done a lot for building libraries for the vulnerable.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
For children.
For children, yes.
Yeah. I grew up in a home where there was.
I think we'll pick our last caller.
Hello.
I don't know if we have enough time. Yes. Good evening. Your name and where you calling from?
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening, panelists.
Good
My
evening.
name is Timothy
Yes.
Mfura from Kitwe.
From Kitwe.
I like the discussion, but I would like to ask the Madam from Kapwepwe. From what I understand, the issue that we are portraying is it Zambia were coming from, it's difficult to unlock the economy using the arts. What is the comment?
Yeah, I mean it is completely true, and like he's saying, it is through the arts that we preserve our history. Yeah. So Chitimuluba, what he's talking about is a play that I did about the the Bemba migration. I've done a lot of historical plays because of what he's saying, that people tend to ingest history. I think easier if they find it also entertaining and informative and whatever. So I've done like Kafuti of the Lunda Lwapula, Chitimuluba, Loeji of the Lunda as well, Lunda Northwestern. So I've done a lot of historical, Rufino's Wife, which is more about the Second World War and our role in the Second World War as Northern Rhodesia. So yes, I've kind of done that history stuff through the arts as well. But also, another part of the creative sector that I'm involved in is the museology space. And talking about, Web 2 and Web 3, the museum that I've set up is a digital museum. And this is why I'm saying this is the age for Africa, yeah? Because I don't need that much money to set up a digital museum. I don't.
Yes.
But you're talking about being awarded the BBC award for most influential.
Yes.
That was because of the museum, the digital museum. Because with the museum, I can reach millions of people, yeah. But I'm reaching them with Zambian history.
Yes, just with the web page and your camera
yes.
and your writing
In fact,
skills.
A lot of it is more animation than anything else. So. But also getting young people now to create the 3D. If you go and look at our exhibition at Aroma, it's all QR codes. But as soon as you point your camera at the QR code, you're in our museum. So it's about doing those kind of innovative things.
Where have I been? I don't like. I'm shocked.
Yeah, no, it's we are when we presented our paper in Germany last month and France, Zambia is way ahead when it comes to digital museums. Zambia is way ahead because of our museum, because we are partnering with a museum in Sweden, which has almost 900 objects which were taken from Zambia from the beginning of the century.
Don't tell me.
Yes. But because we're a digital museum, we've been able to digitally repatriate those objects back. Yeah? We can do that because we're a digital museum. But even as we're talking now, the proposal that we're making now is that we're trying to say to the Swedish museum, okay, you've got our objects, they're there. But because this is the digital age, we can actually create a platform where we can also earn money from those objects for this country. Yes? So what I'm saying to you is that there is so much potential. There is so much potential in this sector. And it's a potential that will go down because some of the object owners, for example, we went to Gwembe Valley, to 6 different villages where these objects were taken from. And the people recognize them. But we're talking about content creation. You know what I mean? Those villagers can create content around those objects now.
Exactly.
Yeah? And make money out of it. There's so much potential when it comes to the digital age for sharing, for earning money outside the country, for getting the money from outside the country into the country. There's so much that we can do. And for me, as I keep saying, if we ignore this, we're really going to miss out on an important sector. There was one thing that someone said who called it and said, I think the community is the way we should start. And one of the things that I'll tell you something else that I'm doing. One of the things that I'm involved in also is more on the Web 3.0 side. And what we're doing, like with young people, because this is the digital age and we have digital assets and all that stuff, we're teaching young people about digital assets and allowing them to earn Bitcoin and Ethereum and all whatever. But these are kids from Chibolia or wherever, But if you talk to the kids that we've been working with, these are Chipata compound, wherever. But if you talk to them now, I'm talking to them and saying, oh, have you cashed out your Bitcoin or whatever currency they wanted to, and they're like, no, I'm watching the markets. This is a kid from New York. Yes, they're watching the stock exchange. And if you ask them about any of these digital assets, Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever, they can list them for you and tell you what the value is, today, as of today. We've done training in trading in Bitcoin and so forth, and these kids can earn money even not just from the gaming industry, but also because now they're asked to test products, and they earn money from that. So there's so much that we can do. There's so much, and at community level, yeah, we don't have to just stick to the usual tailoring and whatever. Mm-hmm. There is so much more that we can do in terms of the digital age at community level, and the communities that we're working with are just ordinary young kids, But they are now, these kids actually went and presented to the Financial Intelligence Center and explained to them what blockchain is and what digital assets are. And now they're actually being flown. They'll drive to Livingston to go and present at the big conference that's happening in September. But these are kids that, last week were, doing things in Soweto Market. So there's so much potential. For me, if we miss this boat, we're going to be very, very sad. The gentleman who said something about community, let me just say this. In Cuba, the creative sector, the creative industry, is treated on the same level as the Ministry of Health. Because that is how important the creative sector is. And they don't see it only as an economic thing, but as a well-being thing. Because when we participate in the arts, we also feel better. You go and watch comedy, you feel better. You go and, go and look at a painting, go to a fashion show, you enjoy music every day, It's part of, they see it as part of well-being. And in the same way that the health sector is structured there, where you have a clinic in every neighborhood, there's a wall of fare in every part of Cuba, where I can go and learn piano, painting, whatever I want. I have to participate in the arts. That's how important they see the arts. And it's a huge industry. They have one whole, like the National Arts Council, but it's a separate thing that just exports artists to other countries. They book concerts, shows, everything in all parts of the world for their artists. This is something that is set up by government to make sure that they're exporting their art. So there are so many things that we can do, that we should do. And very well taken comments from the viewers. Let's start at community and go up. Let's collect a kitty for the arts and start making this sector work. Otherwise, I think we're dooming a lot of people into unemployment when they could be employed, self-employed, or employ other people. When my kids were, they graduate from my film school, I always tell them, don't go and just get a job. Employ other people. Because you can. You have a camera, you need a sound man, you need somebody to write your scripts. Employ even 3 people. 3 of you get together and employ someone else. So it's there's a huge potential that we're not tapping, and there's so many, as I said, other sectors, neglected sectors, especially the quaternary and quinary sectors. We should really be going into that, because that is the time. This is the time for Africa.
Let's also briefly talk about the reading culture. The reading culture, the writing. Mm-hmm. How can we actually encourage more people to develop that culture of reading, culture of writing?
Yeah.
Because when you develop the culture of writing, that's where all these history comes in, where you will preserve the history, the culture of the country.
Absolutely.
When people can write about it.
Absolutely.
Or now blog about it.
Absolutely. It's all right. It's all literature. After the 1938 riots in Kapwepwe, when there were riots because of the tax that was introduced on Africans, one of the things that the colonial government did was to get consultants to come in, because the riots spread all the way to the Copper Belt. People died. It was the worst, in 1938.
Which tax was this? Is it the hard tax? Which one is that?
Yes. And Africans revolted, and it was bloody. So the colonial government panicked and said, how do we manage these Africans, How do we calm them down? So they got consultants to come in and, how do we do this? And the big thing that came out of that consultancy was that there should be literature, there should be film, there should be broadcasting, and there should be newspapers that Africans can read, all that is the creative industry. The entire solution to that problem was the creative sector. That's how important it is. And after the implementation, that is when the Central African Publishing House started. The Mpashis, the Chifulumiras, all the authors that we now talk about today came from that age. And they were published through the Central African Publishing House. We had then the engineers developed the saucepan radio so that people could listen to radio and so forth. And then the broadcasting houses were established. You had the newspapers like Mutende being established so that people could actually read what was going on. And the introduction of just making that creative sector work. And let me say this, we had over 1,200 village libraries. Every village had a library. We had a book circulation of 4 million books in this country. More books than people were circulating in the country. Yeah, and people were reading. I read in the newspaper articles 40s and 19 whatever. When 50s, the students from schools like Munali and whatever, they would all be given books to take home to the village to go and sell during the holidays. And the radio was very locked into the literary world. So even now, I have on my laptop, I can listen to Stephen Impashi reviewing books in Bemba and talking about, this book has been published by this and this author, and people get interested and go and buy the books. It was all very well linked into the radio, the newspapers, the whatever. Everything was built in together. So when you come to reading culture, again, this is a digital era. So I'm hoping it will be easier for the authors and so forth to produce and to get their material out. It has been very difficult, and I'm an author. It has been very difficult to even publish in this country because it's so expensive. They'll tell you have to have a minimum of 51,000.
But now they're digital books.
Yes, now they're digital books. Yeah, they're e-books. And I know a couple of publishers now, like Malamaka Chilwende's publishing house. If you publish with him, automatically you're on Amazon and Barnes and Noble and all the big bookshops. So we're getting there in terms of getting our stuff out. What we need to do is, I think, restructure that ecosystem where people can hear from radio, from the newspaper, who has published what, who is reading what. I appreciate people like Fred Membe publishing his reading list.
Yes.
Yeah, even that is part of the campaign.
Uncle Fred.
What have you read? Yes. What are you reading?
Yes, rich history about Zambia.
Yes, and people can, he's reading this book, maybe I should also read it, whatever. But you encourage people to read. That
reminds me of a book I once read, Amapinda Muchivemba,
yes.
And also a TED talk that I watched about you saying Proverbs as a life hack. I think before we close off, maybe you can just, in a nutshell, just put that together.
Today we have done our research.
Okay, so I wrote that book because Proverbs for me are an interesting aspect of, for us Africans and, us Zambians, our languages are our libraries. They are our life coach. I always say, if you're an African, if you want to be foolish, it's just up to you, because the wisdom is in our languages. The wisdom, everything. The life coaching. I don't have to go to a life coach. I just need to know my language. Everything is everything.
That one caught me off guard.
Yes, every situation I'm coached. How I must react, or how I can react, or how I shouldn't react. There's everything is there. Everything is there. So for me, Proverbs have always been an interesting aspect because they're the smallest package of information and wisdom that you can pass on to another person very quickly and very efficiently, and get that person to immediately get an insight or do something different. Yeah. So that was, I think, the gist of my TED talk as well. that proverbs are life hacks. You know, they actually help us to make quick decisions, make our lives more efficient, because everything is covered in a proverb, you know, every situation.
Omulembo wa chipuwa ukwera muri tunfu.
So you know.
Awe tuatotera tumachura tamba yero pantu chiwemba chitira ti. Yawala ndasana tiwa tukemfu. Yaro futi chiwemba chilando kweba ti. Ushumvo pato no na pafingi ta konfwe. You are watching Economic Briefcase on Camnet TV. Today we had Madam, I almost said Chilesh.
I answer to anything now.
My co-host, Mr. Noah Japao. See you next week. I promise that we are going to invite you. We talk now about the historical.
All right.
Yes.
Because there's just so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about, and I didn't know what to ask and what not to ask.
I was like, don't worry.
Thank you very much for joining us. See you next week. Bye-bye.